The Iron Behemoths, a saga of steel and thunder. In the mud-choked trenches of World War I, where men huddled like ghosts under a sky poisoned by gas and shrapnel, a mechanical monster stirred to life. It was September 15, 1916, at the Battle of Flers-Courcelette, during the Somme offensive, and the British Mark I tank lumbered into the fray. The world's first armored fighting vehicle to see combat, shaped like a rhomboid brick on caterpillar tracks, it crawled at a blistering 4 miles per hour, its riveted steel plates shielding a crew of 8 from the storm of bullets. Designed in secrecy by the British Landships Committee, these early tanks were a desperate bid to break the stalemate of trench warfare. They weren't pretty, engines overheated in minutes, tracks snapped like twigs in shell craters, and visibility was a joke through narrow slits in the armor, but they terrified the Germans, who dubbed them tanks to disguise their purpose as water containers. In that debut, 49 Mark is rolled forward, crushing barbed wire and crossing no man's land where infantry dared not tread. It was the dawn of a new era where steel beasts would redefine war. Fast forward 2 years to April 24, 1918, near Villers-Bretonneux, France. The first tank clash erupted in a foggy field. 3 British Mark IVs, squat and reliable evolutions of the Mark I with improved engines and sponsons for machine guns, stumbled upon 3 German A7Vs, boxy behemoths with 57mm cannons that could punch through armor at 500 yards. The British tanks fired first, their 6-pounder guns belching smoke as they dueled in the dawn light. One A7V brewed up in flames, its crew bailing out into the mud. The Brits claimed victory, but at the cost of one of their own. This skirmish, small by later standards, proved tanks weren't invincible toys. They could hunt each other. Inside those clanky hulks, crews sweated in 120-degree heat, wrestling 50-pound shells by hand. Their world, a symphony of grinding gears, and the commanders barked orders over the roar. By World War II, tanks had shed their infancy. Designers raced to balance the unholy trinity: firepower, armor, and mobility. Early classifications emerged: light tanks for scouting, like the zippy British cruiser Mk1 with its 2-pounder gun and thin 15mm plating. Medium tanks such as the Soviet T-34, a sloped armor marvel that deflected shells like rain, and heavies like the German Tiger I, a 57-ton fortress with an 88mm KWK 36 cannon that could vaporize foes at 2 miles. The T-34's genius lay in its simplicity: Christie suspension for a smooth ride over 30 miles per hour, a diesel engine that rarely caught fire, and wide tracks that floated on snow or mud. Perfect for Russia's fast steppes. In contrast, American Shermans were mass-produced workhorses, reliable but undergunned, earning the nickname Ronsons for igniting on impact. German Panthers added sloped armor and interleaved wheels for better cross-country performance, but complexity doomed them to breakdowns. The crew, typically 4 or 5 souls per tank, a tight-knit family in a 20-foot steel coffin. The commander perched in the turret cupola, eyes glued to periscopes or binoculars, radioing platoon mates, enemy at 11 o'clock, 800 yards, engage. Below him, the gunner hunched over sights, cranking the turret with hydraulic power, his foot on the firing pedal. On the way, he'd shout as the main gun thundered. The loader, often the burliest, heaved 30-pound rounds from racks, armor-piercing for tanks, high explosive for infantry, ramming them home in seconds. Down front, the driver gripped tillers, navigating by a tiny viewport, dodging ditches while the engine's 500 horses growled. Some tanks added a bow gunner, radio operator for extra firepower. No air conditioning, just vents and prayers. Meals were cold sea rations wolfed between shifts. In combat, they'd button up, hearts pounding as rounds pinged off the hull like hail. Training was brutal. Weeks at the armor school, cross-training so anyone could fill in if a buddy bought it. The commander decided targets. The gunner aimed. Loader fed the beast. Driver kept it alive. One mistake and the tank became a tomb. No tale of tanks rings truer than the Eastern Front's inferno. June 22, 1941, Operation Barbarossa. In Ukraine's borderlands, the Battle of Brody unfolded, one of history's largest tank clashes, pitting over 4,000 Soviet tanks against 800 German panzers. Dust clouds billowed as BT-7 lights darted like hares, only to be mauled by Panzer III's 50mm guns. Soviets lost around 2,500 tanks in days, a graveyard of twisted steel from poor tactics and radio silence. But the Soviets learned. By July 1943 at Kursk, the mother of all tank battles, 6,000 tanks massed on a 200-mile salient. Germans struck with 3,000 panzers, tigers roaring forward in Prokhorovka's fields. Soviet T-34 85s, upgraded with 85mm guns, countercharged in suicidal waves, hauled down in weak, trading heavy losses, but bleeding the Wehrmacht dry. One T-34 gunner, Dmitry Lavrenko, claimed 52 kills in weeks, his crew a blur of sweat and steel. Inside a T-34, during the charge, commander yelling azimuths, gunner transversing at 20 degrees per second, loader slamming shells as the tank bucked over corpses. Heat from the breach singed eyebrows, the air reeked of cordite and fear. Kursk turned the tide. Soviets lost around 6,000 tanks overall, Germans around 1,500, but the panzers never recovered. Across the channel, D-Day's beaches birthed Allied armor. Shermans waded Normandy's hedgerows, crews cursing as bow cage snagged tracks. In the Ardennes snow, December 1944's Battle of the Bulge, Piper's SS Panzers, King's Tigers with 700mm frontal armor ambushed GIs. But American Pershings, late arrivals with 90mm guns, evened the score in close quarters duels against German heavies. Post-war, tanks evolved into main battle tanks, MBTs, hybrids, blending heavy firepower, medium mobility, and thick composite armor. Cold War generations marked the shift. First gen, like the M48, Patton echoed World War II with 90mm guns. Second gen M60s added infrared sights. Third gen Abrams and T-72s brought reactive armor, explosive tiles that blast incoming warheads, and auto-loaders, ditching the loader for speed, though Russian T-72s carousels jammed under fire. Differences? Western tanks like the M1 Abrams guzzle gas in a turbine engine for 45-mile-per-hour sprints but sip on cobalt armor. Soviet T-80s prioritize low profiles and 125mm smooth bores for hypersonic darts. Light tanks faded, replaced by recon vehicles, heavies by MBTs versatility. The Gulf War's sands tested this steel. February 26, 1991, Battle of 73 Easting. In a blinding sandstorm, U.S. 2nd Armored Cavalry, 14 M1A1 Abrams, smashed an Iraqi Republican Guard brigade of around 50 T-72s. Captain H.R. McMaster's Eagle Troop led, gunner Sabo, tank, the 120mm depleted uranium rounds lanced through 800 yards of murk, vaporizing T-72s before they fired. Abrams' crew, comfy in stabilized turrets with thermal sights, called shots like gods. 9 tanks, 28 APCs downed, 0 losses. Inside commander on the intercom, transverse, left 10, up 2 mils. Gunner, blazing targets, driver punching dunes at 30 miles per hour. It was one of the last great tank battles of the analog age, proving tech's edge. Days later, Medina Ridge doubled down. U.S. forces fired thousands of rounds, destroying over 60 Iraqi tanks with minimal losses. Today, Ukraine's fields echo those ghosts. Since 2022, T-72s and T-90s, dual Leopard 2s, and Challengers amid drone swarms. Tank on tank is rare. Javelins and Bayraktars pick off columns from afar, but when it happens, it's brutal. A Ukrainian T-64 ambushed a Russian column near Kharkiv, its gunner nailing 3 T-72s in a minute. Russian drones spot, artillery rains, crew adapt, netting for drone evasion, EFP, explosive reactive, armor kits. Operations, dawn patrols, hull down in forest, commander on tablets, linking to UAV feeds. Life inside, 4-hour watches, MREs heated on exhaust, PTSD from close calls, a loader might chamber around while joking to steady nerves. The driver humming folk tunes over the V12 rumble. Tanks endure, hybrids now with active protection systems, zapping missiles mid-flight. Unmanned turrets, even AI gunners. From Somme's mud to Donbass dirt, they've claimed 100,000 lives in battles alone, shaping empires. But crews remain the heart, 4 warriors in a 70-ton thunderbolt, bound by trust, turning fear to fury, as one Abrams commander quipped post-Gulf. It's not the tank, it's the idiots inside who win. In steel's roar, humanity's grit echoes eternal.